I bought this cheap Kawasaki KLR 250 for just £900. There's a good reason why it was cheap though. It hadn't been started in over 4 years, and in the last video I replaced the battery, cleaned out the carb, changed the spark plug, and despite me kicking it like a bitch according to this guy, it finally started. But that's not much use if I can't ride it on the roads. And to get it back on the road here in the UK, it needs an MOT test. And it will ultimately decide whether this bike is safe for the road, whether the UK road is safe for it. Well, that's another question.
I may have got a little bit too excited and booked the earliest MOT that I could take it to, which is tomorrow, Saturday. It's Friday now. I'm going to do a couple of little jobs on this bike to get it ready for the MOT. Which are, I'm going to remove this cover over the headlight because I don't know if that's going to be a problem. Technically, I mean, it's not exactly in the way, but they could say it's obscuring the headlight because it's not a standard part. The indicators on the back are a little bit tired. This one's broken and this one's basically on the way there. The number plate's a little bit ruined, so I got a new one for that because a slightly damaged number plate can come back as it being obscured or not easy to read, even though it is, but I want this bike to go through with absolutely no advisories. That's the plan anyway. And I think that's everything that I need to do to get this through an MOT. One thing that I'm not too sure about are the brakes are a little bit spongy, so I think it could probably do with bleeding the front one. The back's a drum, but it's actually better than the front, so I'm gonna try, maybe I'll bleed the front and see if that makes it any better. And the suspension on the front is super squishy, so it dives a lot, and I don't know, I've noticed that there are these little air valves on the top, because it's meant to be, I think, have some air in the suspension as well as the springs. So I'm going to try putting a gauge on there and just see if there's any air in there, and it might help with it being squishy. So I'm going to start with what I think is going to be the longest job. I'm hoping it's going to be really simple to do the wiring, because it's just going to be 2 wires, and you never know how much the looms of like old bikes have been messed about with, but this one looks pretty standard. When I took the seat off before, it all looks pretty standard. There's a bit of a lump where the rear wiring goes all together, so I'm hoping it's just going to be some connectors. So let's get it apart and have a look.
So to get to the indicator wiring, I first need to remove the side body panels. This lets me get to the bolts to hold the seat on, or should I say bolt, since I snapped one in the last video. But don't worry, I will be fixing it in the next video. And then the seat's free to come off.
Okay, so here's the wiring from the headlights. This is that lump I was talking about. It looks, well, it's all electrical tape, so it looks like someone's been in here before. I'm going to take it off and see what we're working with. Okay, so it's kind of what I expected was going to be the case. There's a big lump of cables that someone's stuck all these connectors on. So I managed to find a wiring diagram for this, but it's so tiny I can barely read. Well, you're not going to be able to see on there, but I can't even read what colours they are. I think all I can make out is black and yellow is one of the indicators, but blue wire is the brake light. So there's lots more I need to take off this back end. I need to take the rear mudguard off and then take the indicators off of that as well. And I think I'll just take the colour wires from the colour wires that come out of the indicator. That's probably the easiest way to tell out where they go. So these are my new indicators. They're not Kawasaki branded parts, but they're a pretty good replica, I think. I couldn't seem to find actual Kawasaki ones unless they were sort of used off of a beaten up bike, but I think these are going to do the job. Nice load of manky tissue. Okay, that one's done some kind of snappy off thing. Amazing. Perfect. It's just what we want. Let's get the other ones out and then see what we have to deal with then. Oh, free Allen key. So I think I'm making this job way more complicated than it needs to be. Look at this. Underneath this nasty ass bag is these wires. So we got, presumably, you've got the center wire there for the rear the tail light with the brake and everything. But then you got a green and a black and yellow there, and a green and a black and yellow. Presumably that's just for the 2 indicators, I'd imagine. And these already come pre-wired with some little bullet connectors, and hopefully they're the same fitment. That's got to be planned, right? So I've decided it's definitely just spinning inside, so I'm going to cut all this rubber off, and then hopefully I can get something to grab, and it'll I'll be able to hold it to get the nut off. I think that's working. How the hell did this job get harder, easier, and then harder again? It feels like it's literally the way with most things. You think, that'll be a piece of piss, I'll get it done in 2 seconds. It's almost like there's something that hears you and goes, nah, this is going to take 3 hours. And you're going to be cutting tiny small amounts of rubber off of a indicator for hours just so you can get a good grab on the piece of metal holding the nut in. That's what it's going to be. Is that a good enough grab on it? Let's find out. Nope, not yet. Let's twist it again. Oh, did it go? Or did it just slip off? I think it just slipped off. Yeah, it did. Oh, you're joking. So I'm going to disconnect this just to get the wiring out the way. May as well cut it at this point. I don't think there's any saving it. Okay, that might have been a mistake. I went and used an impact driver on it, and it's sheared it off. The only thing I need is the nut. I don't think I've got a nut that will replace that, so I'm going to have to try and get that out. Well, at the end of the day, these things happen. Do they happen more often when you use a impact wrench, which is way too powerful for the job? Who's to say? I couldn't possibly comment on that. I think maybe the end of this is filled with so much rubbish that if I file the top off of it, then maybe it'll free it up enough to come off. You know, at the end of the day, I should have nuts. Well, I should have a selection of nuts, but I don't. Unfortunately, my tin of tetanus is still in its infancy, so I haven't really got much to go off in there. I have an old box of fasteners from the BM. Might get lucky. Okay. Sorry to report we didn't get lucky. Why does everything have to be difficult? This is such a simple problem to have if I just had a 14mm nut. Or even any nut that would fit. You're joking. If that fits, I'll be amazed. Well, it looks like I have some nuts. Strange lock nuts, but that will do.
So I said goodbye to the old nut I was messing about with.
You can get f***ed. 2 brand new nuts. What more could you want?
And with my brand new nuts, I set about making some actual progress and fitting the indicators with no further problems.
Okay, that's worrying.
Oh, come on.
Right, so the problem is now, this doesn't come out anywhere near as far enough. So if you can see under here, it doesn't even, you can't even see the thread. The thread's not even showing through the plastic, so I don't know how I'm supposed to get a nut on it. The MOT is tomorrow. I don't know what to do.
At this point, I'm starting to worry a little bit because indicators are kind of important for an MOT. And I'd just snapped the old ones off, so there was no hope of repairing those. So I was basically going to have to find a way to make these fit or cancel the MOT altogether.
Get in for a penny, in for a pound. I think if I take this piece off here, then there's a slight chance that they might be long enough and I can sort of fit them to the plastic in a way, I don't know, just to get it through an MOT. And then get some longer stemmed ones afterwards, but that means I'm going to have to hack this one off as well. And I'm not f***ing about this time. There we go. Did we snap? Yep, we snapped. Okay. Not entirely sure how these new indicators were meant to join on, considering that's how far the thread sticks through. And it doesn't reach through the plastic, so I guess that's what you get when you buy cheap. I think I'm going to have to get the actual genuine ones, although for now, I mean, the MOT is still booked for tomorrow, so if I can do these up a little bit without damaging them, then that might just work. I mean, I think that's going to work. You just do them very gently. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful. Maybe they just won't notice. Okay, that's pretty good. I think that's going to work. We might be getting an MOT after all. Okay, I'm going to put this through, put the wires back up through here. And then before I even think about putting anything back on or doing any more, I'm going to see if it actually works. Okay, moment of truth. Let's see if we have a working indicator. Yes, finally something is going my way.
So then I moved on to fitting the right side indicator, because it's not going to be good if I can only turn left.
Alright, that's the right side, working all good. And the left side. Alright, so in the end that doesn't look too bad without the black metal piece on there. I think it will get it through the MOT, that's the main thing.
Then I removed this little grill on the headlight. And when I say grill, I actually mean grill, because someone in the comments on my last video claimed they owned this little bike 20 years ago, and it's actually part of an oven grill that they painted black and added themselves.
Okay, so unfortunately I'm going to have to stop tonight because my lights are powered by a leisure battery and it's basically dead. And if I let it go any lower, it's going to be completely dead. So I'm going to have to get up early tomorrow and try and get everything done before the MOT. The MOT is at 11:30, so I should have a couple of hours, or a few hours if I get up, or when I get up. But we'll come back to it tomorrow and hopefully we can get it all sorted. I need to put some coolant in it as well, I forgot, because there's barely any in it. I'm just going to top it up for the time being. I'll see you tomorrow and we'll get on with that. Okay, so we're back. My lights are dead in here. I'm going to wheel the bike outside. I've got about half an hour because I left it too late, as per. So what I'm going to do is start with the biggest job first and top up the coolant, make sure it's not all leaking out. And then whilst I run the bike just to get it up to temperature and see that it doesn't leak, nothing bad happens, I'm going to drill the rear number plate screw out so I can put a new one on, and then if I've got time I'll check the pressures on the suspension, but I don't think I'm going to have time to do the brakes. I hope they just maybe bed in a bit better, possibly, because they haven't been used for a long time. If not, then I've got to hope they'll just pass it on the fact that it's an old bike and the brakes are a bit crap.
And after I put some coolant in, I tried running the bike for a little bit to see if it would circulate, because I saw something online saying that you had to run the bike to get the air out of the system.
Alright, so there's nothing in the header bottle and the coolant level's not going down, so I don't know what that's about. Alright, coolant topped up. I've literally forgotten all the jobs already. So coolant, what else was there? Number plate, yes. Okay, the coolant's not gone down. Who knows whether that's circulated or not at this point. Oh, the hose feels warm. Although that hose is stone cold. Perfect. That's worrying. It's a little worrying. Okay. Anyway, we're running out of time, so 5 minutes.
There was only one nut and bolt holding the number plate on, but it was seized up, so I had to try and drill it out. The old number plate came off, but it left the bolt in there, so I had to hacksaw that in half. And this whole time I'm panicking about getting to the MOT centre on time. I should really plan things a bit better.
Come on. I'm running out of time here. Come on, just come off. There you go, nice. Beautiful. Okay, so I've ripped the old reflector off of the old number plate, stuck some sticky back stuff on it, and I'm going to stick it on when I get there, because I don't want it to come off and then they fail it because it doesn't have a reflector. Okay, I really need to go now. Right, so I'm already past when I should have gone now, so I'm going to get a move on putting this back together.
I hadn't seen any air bubbles come out the radiator while I was running the bike, so I was a bit worried there was air in the system, but it came up to temperature on the gauge, so I just decided to keep an eye on it on the journey. In the UK, it's legal to ride a motorbike on the road without a valid MOT, as long as you're riding it to a booked MOT test. But I hadn't really considered what I was going to do if it failed, because then it's illegal for me to ride home without a valid MOT. So at this point, I'm just going to have to hope it passes and deal with it as it comes if it doesn't. But that doesn't stop me enjoying the ride, and this bike is so much fun. Even when I discovered that stalling in traffic is much more stressful without an electric start. And forgetting that happened, I know I didn't manage to get all of the things done that I said in the beginning of this video, but I think I've managed to get just enough done to get it through an MOT, and everything else can be done at a later date when I go through the bike in a little more detail. Although I wish I'd spent a little bit more time going through it in the first place, because a couple of little issues started coming up. Oh, that back brake feels very wavy. Pretty bad modulation in that back brake that I did not notice. I haven't ridden it, so how would I know? And it is feeling really wavy. It's like on off. Well, it's not. It's on, but it's like a kind of wavy feeling. I may have been having some problems, but at least one thing was working. Indicators working beautifully. What we like to see. Now I know I should be putting E5 in this, but this is the closest station on the way, and it only does E10, so I'm going to put a little bit in there and I'm sure it won't do any harm. I mean, what's it going to do? Make my tank rusty? This is such a relaxing bike to ride. It's a nice squishy seat, suspension's really spongy. Probably shouldn't be this spongy, but I mean it is an off-road bike, so I am loving this. I'm having great fun, I must admit. This thing deserves to be back on the road. It deserves to be used. And the absolute best bit about having a skinny little bike like this this bike absolutely deserves to be up and running again. So they're sat in some guy's garage, wasted away. It is so much fun. So much fun, whilst also going really, really slow. I love this thing. Probably going to fail the MOT, but we'll see. And then I so nearly walked away from the bike without sticking the reflector on, which would have been an automatic fail. Thankfully, I went back and remembered to stick it on, just as this guy came over to reminisce.
I had one.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, bloody loved it.
And after a quick chat,
I'm going to have to quickly run and chuck my key at him, but
then all I could do was wait for the result. Was I going to be stuck there and have to trailer the bike back? Hopefully not. So there we go, almost an hour later. That was quite a slow MOT there. I think they were quite busy, they only had one guy, but she passed. Oh yeah, what advisory, which I knew that was going to be the case with that brake. I checked the old MOTs and it looks like it actually had that on there before. I should have realised that, but it's too late now and she passed. So next time I'll have to see if I can get that sorted out, but got her taxed as well because I couldn't tax her until I had an MOT.
And now it's all on the road. We're on the road and we're legal.
So has this bike frustrated me at times? Absolutely. But it's all part of the fun. And if you wanted to ask me if I felt like it was all worth it, I think this next clip will answer for me.
Oh, this thing is so much fun to ride. Oh, I love this thing.